standing in the Ulster Museum in the southern part of Belfast, and what's going on is we're running an event, a public engagement event called WW1 Today, and we've invited people from the communities around Northern Ireland as well as our stakeholder organisations to share ideas, thoughts and think about the future and the centenary in the context of Northern Ireland. We have had events in Cardiff and in Newcastle upon Tyne, and now here in Belfast. And the principal purpose of them really is to bring together people who may not know each other, sometimes they do know each other, to share their thoughts about the First World War, and particularly working with the engagement centres and thinking about what kinds of interesting projects they may be able to do.
I think it's useful to know what other projects are on across the country. Sometimes projects or individuals are guilty of working in isolation and they don't know what else is going on around the country. So it's good to meet new people, hear what other work is going on in some of the same research areas, and also to find out what sort of expertise and help is available from some of these institutions who have facilitated this event today.
So by coming to an event such as this, the projects, the groups particularly, can get to know each other a bit more, and I think ideally, looking forward, what would be nice is if it may be possible for them to collaborate, not only with themselves but also with the engagement centres and our stakeholders.
I think I have a certain amount of skills and experience that I've learned in the last 2 years working on a project which will be useful to other projects who are at different stages. Some of the people I've met today are just starting, others are maybe halfway through, and many of them have come across the same problems as what I come across during my 2 years.
From today's activities so far, I think what's been nice is that we've heard from very successful community-based projects, some funded by Heritage Lottery Fund, some working with the Living Legacies Engagement Centre, and for those projects to talk about their experiences and to reflect in a very positive way, in all of the cases so far, about what they've achieved.
So our project was born out of engagement with academics, particularly Professor Richard Grayson from the Goldsmiths University in London. He wrote a book called Belfast Boys, how Unionists and Nationalists fought and died together in the First World War. And it involves me trying to come up with a database of every single serviceman from East Belfast who had a residency in East Belfast, trawling through local newspapers, trawling through service records from the National Archives, pension records, Commonwealth War Graves records. And I'd been working away on that by myself in my own time until the idea of a project came along, and then Living Legacies came along and made it, I suppose, a reality for me. But Living Legacies and that engagement with them, I suppose, provides an ongoing and a persistent contact with experts in the field, which as a community level researcher I think is gold dust actually. We decided that we wanted to engage with some local community groups. We shared some of our skills with them, allowed them to research some of the streets that were important to them, and from that they came up with a list of men and biographies and photographs and information which was able to form a travelling exhibition.
The engagement centres around the United Kingdom are there to support community projects, and we can provide practical support. Often it is practical support that's required for projects to perhaps do something which they can't do on their own or would find difficult to do on their own. That could be something quite technical, of course. It might be digitising some of the heritage they're interested in. It may be helping them to facilitate a piece of drama or creative writing that they're wishing to produce, and help community groups perhaps to do something different to what they might have done before.
The other aspect of our community engagement was World War I antiques roadshows, which we decided to take across East Belfast. We got some great quality response from the public in terms of numbers of people who came out, but also in terms of the objects that they brought forward. Some things were absolutely incredible, from ponytails from Chinese man's head to a blood-stained photograph to love letters from the front. You name it, it came forward.
Well, the engagement centres have the opportunity now to work together, sharing thoughts about what makes a good event, and also working with our Heritage Lottery Fund regional offices. So we're tapping into each other's networks. I mean, that's the really critical thing, I think. So when we can move around the United Kingdom, we each have our strengths, and we can draw together from those strengths, I think, in an event such as this here at the Ulster Museum, to do something special which actually benefits all of us.
Yeah, so this morning we had some presentations from some of the community groups, including my own, which give us an opportunity to reflect on particularly my project over the last 2 years, We then broke into roundtable discussions, and at my table there were 2 or 3 other groups. We had virtually the same experiences. For example, trying to retain volunteers in some of these community projects. My own experience was that, I came up with the idea for my project. I was quite willing to work on it day and night. I had volunteers who came on board with the project but who didn't necessarily share the same enthusiasm as I did, and sometimes it was hard to motivate them.
I think one of the special things about where we are in the UK, here in Northern Ireland or the north of Ireland, is that the First World War is not dead. The First World War here is still present, and we can recognise that in the groups that we work with and that we've talked with and talked to about their relationship with the First World War and the difficulties and complexities of identity which are part of the story of the centenary of the war here in Northern Ireland, as well as the war itself.
If anybody's sitting with an idea, or they think that they would like to do a bit of research on particularly on the Great War, obviously, or they think that other people might be interested in it, I would encourage you to try and form it into a project. Go and speak to the HLF, go and speak to Living Legacies, or these research centres based at the universities across the UK, and make it a reality. There's no reason why you can't do it. You speak to a few people, and what would be possible if becomes a reality, and 2 years down the line I'm finished and reaping the rewards from it.
So I think for us it's a good place for us to think about the complexity of commemoration, and that war and its centenary is not simple, and that it means different things to different people in different places.